One of the things that's happened in our society is that we seem to have concluded that strong men are dangerous. That's partly because we think Western culture is tyrannical patriarchy, and the only reason we get to the top is because you misuse power. So all men who are at the top of the heart, they're all misusing their power, and they're all tyrannical. And all the guys who have the aim and ambition to achieve that are just tyrants in training. That's sort of the basic attitude that we have towards our own culture and towards young men now. Everything about that is pathological and inexcusable and shameful.
I used to watch kids skateboard. I like watching those kids. I like watching skateboarders do those crazy things.
Samson.
They're trying to become competent. They're facing danger. They don't want the damn protective gear. It's like, no, I don't want to wear a helmet. I want to expose myself to this danger. It's not that I'm stupid. And the kids are often shooed away. It's like, wait a second. They're practicing being courageous. They're practicing mastering something in the face of danger.
Don't bother children when you're skateboarding. Don't bother children when you're skateboarding. Don't bother children. Don't bother children. Don't bother children when you're skateboarding. Don't bother children when you're skateboarding. Don't bother children when you're skateboarding. Don't bother children. Don't bother children. Don't bother children when you're skateboarding.
A lot of the rebellious behavior of young men in particular, which is very frowned upon in schools. It's like, that's toxic masculinity. That horrid phrase. It's like, leave those damn kids alone. About 10 years ago in Toronto, they changed the insurance rules governing the playgrounds. Parents have raised money for these damn playgrounds. There's nothing wrong with them. You pull them all out. 2 weeks before school started, there was nothing but dirt and gravel. I saw the kids going off to school because they needed some danger.
Don't bother children when you're skateboarding. Don't bother children when you're skateboarding. Don't bother children. Don't bother children. Don't bother children when you're skateboarding. Don't bother children when you're skateboarding. Don't bother children when you're skateboarding. Don't bother children. Don't bother children. Don't bother children when you're skateboarding.
Go see a gymnast, and like the gymnast does a flawless routine. Everybody claps like that. The judges say 9.9. And then the next person comes up and they're screwed. It's like 9.9. It's basically perfect. How can you do better than perfect? And then they do it. You can do better than perfect. They're on the edge. And they go out there and you watch them, feel it in your body. Everything they do is that much farther out into chaos than anything they've ever done. Pushing themselves to the absolute limit of their ability. Hell, with every gesture, they're that close to making a mistake. They've taken this courageous step beyond their confidence and put everything on the line. And then they land in a way that's unlike perfect. It's perfect plus. And everybody immediately leaps to their feet. And like they get a chill. And so what you've just seen is awe-inspiring. You've seen someone courageously move past perfection into the unknown, and not only ennoble themselves more, but to ennoble humanity itself. Up on your feet. It's like, yes! And then it's tens. They win the gold. Well, everyone knows what that's like. It's like a great music record. That's being in that place of everything alongside. Better than perfect. Better than perfect. Better than perfect.
Don't bother children when you're skateboarding. Don't bother children when you're skateboarding. Don't bother children. Don't bother children. Don't bother children when you're skateboarding. Don't bother children when you're skateboarding. Don't bother children when you're skateboarding. Don't bother children. Don't bother children. Don't bother children when you're skateboarding.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. We have Mary Lou in the house. She is with us tonight. I see we've got quite a few people in here. We got Survival. We got Kevin. Irish dropped in for a second. We got Justice. So, oh, maybe I can't do math. It was more earlier. I don't know if this count is right. It said 7 before. And so, well, whatever. So we are in chapter 11. We are almost done with this chapter. So, Shaman says hello, Mary Lou.
Hi, John.
So she says hi. Lawrence is in the house. He says hi. Hi, all. So, oh my goodness. So yeah, it is absolutely scorching here. So please excuse the air conditioner noise in the background. It is the third day of 100-degree weather. And just let me check my app here. Oh, it is down to 88. Such bliss. Tomorrow we're only going up to 90. Which is, Monday it's going to be 66. I can't believe it's this hot. It's like a lot of these places around here don't have air conditioning because we usually only get like 2 weeks in July that are like the peak heat. And then, temperatures are 85 and inside the house it's in the 70s. So, Oh yeah. Oh, thank you, Survival. Glad to know the audio's good. Only 81 there, but you need rain badly. Yes, I understand that. I'm actually quite frightened for what's been going on here. And that is, it was a very, very wet spring. So plants just shot up. I mean, we had all sorts of stuff going on. And it is now this hot dry weather, and we haven't gotten any rain since. So there's all sorts of stuff that can burn. Survival 124. I heard, is that right? Because I heard from somebody that it was 117. But yeah, it's and they've got the telegraph fire going on down there. So that is Mojave Desert hot. I've lived through temperatures that hot, and that is you got to be drinking water with electrolytes in it because things go south fast. Heat stroke is real and it's very, very dangerous. So Survival says, don't quote me. That's hearsay. Got it. Okay. So, I mean, somebody can Google it right now and confirm if they want. But, Lawrence says we only got 1 day of rain here in May and only 1 day of rain in June so far. Oh, yeah, no, we had a very wet, the snow stayed late. So it was here through April. And then all of May it rained, and then June hit, and it pretty much stopped. And so now it's been dry. Or I guess the week before June, the rain stopped, and so we've got lots of plants, lots of weeds, just stuff growing, and now it's all starting to shrivel up. Down here on the Front Range, which is not good for, like up in the mountains, because they get it much worse up there, and it's really hard to get the fire trucks and everything like that. You have to have the C-130 planes come in and drop the fire retardant up there. And last year it was so bad. I remember looking out my window. It was at noon. It looked like a beautiful red sunset. It was straight out of the screen, where you look up at the sky and you're like, it's 12 o'clock. What on earth is going on? And so, yeah, and the air quality was so bad, it gave me a headache for days. Oh, was not good. So I do not want to repeat of last year. That was just way too rough. So, DC, hey, I thought you were just popping in to hit the like button and leave. You're still here. Bless your heart. DC says it was 565 degrees in my shop today, but that's years old damn ovens. Yeah, you're working around furnaces. It gets super hot. So, he says, I'm in the ovens nonstop lately, but it's work. It is work. That's true. Although, some places are still having trouble hiring enough folks. I haven't seen the latest jobs report yet. But yeah, so, um, DC says, I powder coat. Are you dealing with glass and stuff like that? Is that the kind of ovens you're dealing with? Because somebody here guessed pizza ovens. It was Kevin guessed pizza ovens. But yeah, so heat, uncomfortable. But well, it's gonna cool off tomorrow, thank God. And just pray for no lightning and plenty of rain, up where Lawrence is, because that sounds like an even more dangerous situation than what we were going through, because you guys didn't have, Lawrence, you didn't have any snow this winter either, so you've got like really dry conditions up there. That is, ooh. But yeah, anyway, DC says metal and steel, that's the way. All right, that's some good work. So you go ahead and keep that. Are you union or are you a non-union shop? Because yeah, DCR says I have a kitty pool I keep full of ice from my ice machine. I just lay in it at work. Yeah, right. Oh my gosh. Lauren said, no, we did not get snow until February, and it only lasted a few weeks. Ooh. So yeah, that's not good. That's not good. Union? What's that? I live in Florida. Gotcha. That makes sense now. Yeah, no. I come from Missouri, where it was all union jobs doing that kind of work. And there was a steelworks just south of my campus when I went to college. And yeah, on certain, like if it got really foggy, whatever the chemicals like used to powder and coat the steel and stuff like that, the air would smell like blood. Like it was a vampire's nightmare. So, but yeah, seeing the sparks flying, walking home from campus, that was some fun stuff. So, and Kevin says, "Oh, that'll do it." I got a product that warps itself after the powder coat. We got to is that rematching it or remaking it after remachining it? Remachining. I can't talk. After every time, I don't know. So, but anyway, yeah. Hopefully, it'll cool down tonight for you guys as well, and we will all be able to sleep in comfort. Or you have some, banging air conditioning. I just have one little portable unit that I turn to whatever room that I'm in, except it doesn't reach the kitchen. So like cooking is off. It's like I'm not turning on the oven or the stove for anything. It's everything in the microwave or, straight out of the fridge. There's no cooking going on. So DC says, I own my own company, been powder coating and painting since I came home from prison, just me and two guys. Wow. Well, good for you on making yourself an upstanding member of the community and having your own business, employing people. That's awesome. I am very proud of you. So, yeah, stay safe and and now I understand why you're able to have a kiddie pool. So, Kevin says remachine. That's the word I was trying to get out of my mouth too. I failed English twice. Oh my gosh. So, but anyway, it's good to see everybody here tonight. Glad you're all with me. I am so sorry I missed Saturday last week because just life happened. Life happened. Let's put it that way. But yeah, I want to get back into the biblical series and more work on that. My mom has signed me and her up for a class starting, I don't know when, but I'll share what I learned from it because it's supposed to be this whole big, she's buying the books for me and everything like that. And then there's an online, teacher and things. It's big. It's big. So I'm excited. DC says, I can sell ice water in hell. Just look for me down there. Well, oh man. It actually, if you want to do a little volunteer work, if you've got some time, I need some fundraisers. So we're trying to do some big pushes going forward, and we have run into some spots where we have what's known as unavoidable costs. These are things like paying the government for copyrights and trademarks and stuff like that. And you can't get around, you can't barter with the government. They want cash money. So we got to do a little fundraising here. Yeah, so hit me up. My contact information is in the about section. So if not, I'm blanking on it. Survival has it. So if he's got your info, and then I text everybody. I don't know if you're on the text announcement group from when I send out, prayer requests and things like that. But yeah, shoot me your digits and we'll talk. So Kevin says, do you sell the ice by the minute, as in how many minutes it survives before melting? That's awesome. Oh my gosh, you guys are cracking me up tonight. So you guys are talking about failing English. I almost failed my sophomore in high school English class. Actually, I was failing until my dad stepped in and got me to write the papers and everything else. Oh, thank you, DC. You're going to check it out? Ah, you're such a sweetheart. So I'm going to, I had to write like 6 papers or something like that, get them conferenced, then write the final drafts of them. So it's like a total of 12 papers. And I was just, so rough, but my dad got me through it, and that helped me out the rest of my life. Cause like, he didn't get mad. He was just like, okay, go to the teacher, find out what you need to get done to pass the class. Just very, methodically. Like, my parents used to explode in anger at me all the time, and I was terrified, of them getting angry. And he wasn't this time. It surprised me, and so he was just, get her done. That sort of Midwest get her done attitude, and got me through English, and that's what my major ended up being. So, hallelujah. Well, after the pre-med. Hallelujah to that, much better than math. So anyway, we are on, without further delay, we are on page 324, and we are talking about the Dark Queen, the terrible mother. We're talking about it in Disney films. So they've got that new one coming out. They did Maleficent. Now they've got Cruella for 101 Dalmatians. I don't know that I like all these remakes. I mean, some of them, we need, sometimes bad guys need to stay bad guys. That children need to learn that there is evil in the world and that, adults can be awful. Oh, someone's already seen it. Cruella was good. Dang it. And I can't see movies in the theater, so I have to wait until it comes out on Netflix or something like that. And then if it's too good, it doesn't come out to Netflix at all. It's like HBO or, I have to get it through Prime and pay for it. And all. I haven't been in the movie theater since the headache started, so. But anyway, we are on page 324. And talking about how the terrible mother appeared in Sleeping Beauty. That's the Maleficent thing. And, Sleeping Beauty originally, before it got cleaned up by Disney, was it was a lot more interesting, the original medieval version. So yeah, that was, you get back into the original versions of some of these stories and it's like they told this to kids. It's like darker world back then. So oh no, sorry, we're to the Little Mermaid. We're on page 325. So the relationship between the masculine consciousness is also portrayed symbolically in the Disney movie The Little Mermaid. Ariel, the heroine, is quite feminine, but she also has a strong spirit of independence. For that reason, she is her father's favorite, although she also causes him the most trouble. Her father Triton is the king, representing the known culture and order, with a hint of the oppressive rule giver and tyrant. Because order is always opposed by chaos, Triton has an adversary, Ursula, a tentacled octopus, a serpent, Gorgon, a hydra. So all of those things mixed into one. Oh, look who's here! I haven't seen you in forever. Wandering Violin Mantis says, "Hi, Pam Fam, love you all. I just wanted to pop in and show my support, spending time with my boy who is off work." Absolutely wonderful. This is he come back from where he was? I don't know if I can mention it online, but yeah, Mantis is in the house. Look at that. A rare sighting. So good to see you, hon. Glad you were able to stop in and say hi. So I miss you. So anyway, a serpent, a gorgon, a hydra. Thus, Ursula is in the same archetypical category as the dragon queen Maleficent in Sleeping Beauty, or the jealous older queen in Snow White, Lady Tremaine in Cinderella, the Red Queen in Alice in Wonderland, Cruella de Vil, we were just talking about that, in 101 Dalmatians, Miss Medusa in The Rescuers, and Mother Gothel in Tangled. And there's other ones. You missed Hercules, but it's a rare mantis sighting. Yes, it is. So yeah, all of these. Anytime that you have like a dark mother, an evil queen, evil stepmother, that sort of thing, that represents that whole darker side, the toxic femininity, if you will. Ariel wants to kindle a romance with Prince Eric, whom she previously rescued from a shipwreck. Ursula tricks Ariel into giving up her voice so that she can have 3 days as a human being. Ursula knows full well, however, that a voiceless Ariel will not be able to establish a relationship with the prince. Without her capacity to speak, without the logos, without the divine word, she will remain underwater, unconscious forever. I think of the Grimm's fairy tale, she turns into sea foam. Um, when Ariel fails to form a union with Prince Eric, Ursula steals her soul and places it in a large collection of shriveled and warped semi-beings, well protected by her feminine graces. When King Triton shows up to demand the return of his daughter, Ursula makes him a terrible offer. He can take Ariel's place. Of course, the elimination of the wise king, who represents, to say it again, the benevolent side of the patriarchy, has been Ursula's nefarious plan all along. Ariel is released, but Triton is now reduced to a pathetic shadow of his former self. More importantly, Ursula now has Triton's magic trident, the source of his godlike power. Fortunately for everyone concerned except Ursula, Prince Eric returns, distracting the evil queen of the underworld with a harpoon. This opens an opportunity for Ariel to attack Ursula, who grows in response to monstrous proportions, similarly to the way the dragon Maleficent in Sleeping Beauty, goes from her normal human form and then turns into a full dragon. Yep, and it just, I should read ahead before I add my commentary. In the same manner, Maleficent, Sleeping Beauty's evil queen, Ursula creates a huge storm and raises a whole navy of sunken ships from the ocean floor. As she prepares to kill Ariel, Ariel commandeers a wrecked ship and rams her with its broken bowsprit. Triton and the other captured souls are released. The rejuvenated Triton then transforms his daughter into a human being so that she can be with Eric. For a woman to become complete, such stories claim, she must form a relationship with a masculine consciousness and stand up to the terrible world, which sometimes manifests itself primarily in the form of her present mother. An actual man can help her do that to some degree, but it is better for everyone concerned when no one is too dependent. And then, okay, Kevin Edwards says, I can see a folk tale around a wandering mantis who plays the violin. It sounds like a Brother Grimm story. Yes. Survival says, I wasn't raised on Disney movie. I haven't seen a lot of them. Really? That is kind of weird. Although the wonderful thing about Disney movies is that there are a lot of subtleties. I mean, before they were putting in the adult jokes that the kids couldn't get, from the beginning, the Disney movies were written in such a way that the adults would enjoy them as well. So, I mean, if you've got some time, maybe later on in the season you catch the flu or something like that, catch a few Disney movies. The originals are really good. So, okay, Kevin Edwards says, ooh, that weird that Ursula represents modern feminism. She kind of looks like one too. Oh, ouch. Oh, I didn't say it. DC says, I wasn't really raised on Disney stuff either. Survival says, I will not be catching the flu. I know, but I mean, like, you get your wisdom teeth out. You have to do something where you're stuck in bed and kind of loopy. It's a good time to watch kids stuff. So, but anyway, well, you're out in Washington State, just have a party one night and say to anybody who hasn't or who wasn't raised on the Disney movies, let's smoke a few and connect back with it. So, but yeah. So one day when I was a kid, I was out playing softball with some friends. The teams were a mixture of boys and girls. We were old enough that the boys and girls were starting to be interested in one another in an unfamiliar way. Mm-hmm. Status was becoming more relevant and important. My friend Jake and I were about to come to blows, pushing each other around near the pitching mound when my mom walked by. This is a great story. I love this story. She was a fair distance away, about 30 yards, but I could immediately see by the change in her body language that she knew what was going on. Of course, the other kids saw her as well. She walked right by. I knew that hurt her. Part of her was worried that I would come home with a bloody nose and a black eye. It would have been easy enough for her to yell, "Hey, you kids, quit all that," or even come over and interfere. But she didn't. And years later, when I was having a teenage trouble with my dad, my mom said, "If I was too good at home, you'd never leave." And that's very true. I mean, we know that from, some of the modern generations. They have it too good at home, and they never want to leave. The kid that sued his parents, he was 30 years old because, living in his mom's basement, and sued his parents because they weren't giving him enough money. And the judge looked at him like, "You're 30, go get a job," So, I think there was more than one kid who did that too. And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" So, anyway, I flew out of my house like a shot the second I was old enough. My mom is a tender-hearted person. She's empathetic and cooperative and agreeable. She sometimes lets people push her around. When she went back and forth after being at home with her young kids, she found it challenging to stand up to the men. Sometimes that made her resentful, something she also feels sometimes in relationship to my father, who is strongly inclined to do what he wants when he wants to. Despite all that, she's no Oedipal mother. She fostered the independence of her children, even though doing so was often hard on her. She did the right thing, even though it caused her emotional distress. What are we talking about here? I missed something. So it says, "Pam, you gave me a weird Kathy Bates misery vibes there for a second. Awesome." That's funny. I'm glad I caught that one. Thank you for pointing it out, guys. But between trying to focus on the screen and on the book, my eyes don't adjust very well. I don't need reading glasses because I've still got enough nearsightedness that I can read close up, but like my middle vision and far vision, just in between. I'm getting old, folks. I'm whining. So this is called "Toughen Up, You Weasel." I spent one youthful summer on the prairie of central Saskatchewan working on a railway line crew. Every man in that all-male group was tested by the others during the first 2 weeks or so of their hiring. Many of the other workers were Northern Cree Indians, quiet guys for the most part, easygoing until they drank too much. Then the chips on their shoulders started to show. That they had been in and out of jail, as had most of their relatives. They didn't attach much shame to that, considering it just another part of the white man's system. It was also warm in jail in the winter, and food was regular and plentiful. I lent one of the Cree guys $50 at one point. Instead of paying me back, he offered me a pair of bookends cut from the original rail laid across Western Canada, which I still own. That was better than $50. When a new guy first showed up, the other workers would inevitably provide him with an insulting nickname. They called me Howdy Doody after I was accepted as a crew member, something I am still slightly embarrassed to admit. When I asked the originator why he chose that moniker, he said wittily and absurdly, "Because you look nothing like him." Working men are often extremely funny in a caustic, biting, insulting manner, as we discussed in Rule 9. They are always harassing each other, partly for amusement, partly to score points in the eternal dominance battle between them, but also partly to see what the other guy will do if subjected to social stress. It's part of the process of character evaluation as well as camaraderie. When it works well, when everybody gets and gives as good as they get and can give and take, it's a big part of what allows men who work for a living to tolerate or even enjoy laying pipe and working on an oil rig and lumberjacking and working in restaurant kitchens and all the other hot, dirty, physically demanding, and dangerous work that is still done almost exclusively by men. We were talking about blast furnaces earlier, so Survival says, sounds like every new construction job I ever had. Yep. Men haze one another to test their reaction. Absolutely. It's to weed out the kitty cats. And it's also to, see if somebody's a hothead. If they just go from 0 to 60, it's like, whoa, and I that's useful to me in the work that I do, where if somebody is, just too fly off the handle too quickly or anything like that, even if it's women, it's if she's too wishy-washy, if she can't make a decision, you don't want her in a business. If she is highly reactive to jokes and stuff like that, you want to get them out quickly because they will become a thorn in your side otherwise. If they don't have a sense of humor, out the door, sorry, gotta go. So yeah, it very much is natural survival. You're absolutely right. It's even found in nature. You're dead right. The play between animals. Dogs will do it, cats will do it. That whole thing. So good call on that one. Not too long after I started on the rail crew, my name was changed to Howdy. This was a great improvement as it had a good Western connotation and was not obviously linked to that stupid puppet. The next man hired was not so fortunate. He carried a fancy lunch bucket, which was a mistake, as brown paper bags were the proper, non-pretentious convention. It was a little too nice and a little too new. It looked like maybe his mother had bought it and packed it for him. Thus, it became his name. Lunch Bucket was not a good-natured guy. He complained about everything. Jordan Peterson actually says bitched about everything, but and he had a bad attitude. Everything was somebody else's fault. He was touchy and none too quick on the draw. Yep, we were just talking about that. Lunch Bucket couldn't accept his name or settle into his job. He adopted an attitude of condescending irritation when addressed and reacted to the work in the same manner. Oh my gosh. So there's a guy I know. He's the husband of a friend of mine. And he was working in an automotive shop, and the work was giving him too much trouble because he's got some fused vertebrae in his neck. And so he had to leave the job because the carpal tunnel and just all sorts of problems. So, but he's having a tough time getting back on the workhorse. And one of the things, he signed up for a gas station job, and they asked him, what days would you like off? And he likes weekdays off which is kind of a bonus, because everybody wants weekends off, but he said weekdays. So, that wasn't too bad. But then he said that he would never work mornings. And I was like, well, what? This is a minimum wage, entry level job. Who are you to make such demands as, I will never work mornings? It's like, no, I will take any shift you want to give me. If you have somebody out sick and you need me to pull a double, I will pull a double. That I worked in a gas station. That's how it is. You have to do that sometimes. The next guy doesn't come in or something like that. You're pulling a double shift. You're working in the morning. And he didn't get the job. And I was like, well, yeah, you can't be, demanding and a princess at an entry-level job. It's, there plenty. It's summertime now. There are plenty of kids who would happily take that job, working in air conditioning and not outside. Give me a break. So, yeah. Survival says, us men test each other in competitive situations. Some guys take their jobs a bit too seriously. It's their own insecurities normally. Absolutely. And then to my friend's situation, the yes man attitude gets you in the door. Exactly. What are you doing? Shooting yourself in the foot saying, oh no, I'm too good for mornings. I want to be able to sleep in until whenever I want. No, get the job, then worry about the schedule later. So, but I have a feeling he doesn't want to work anyway. Come on, Fifi. So, DC says, I've never worked my birthday, didn't always work out well, but I still held my ground. Right. I mean, sometimes, it's going to put a ding in your reputation if you do that kind of stuff. So, Survival says, after you learn the layout, you can make demands after you've proven your worth. Exactly. But if you're going to walk into an entry level, minimum wage job, making demands, if you're bringing skills to the table, completely different story. If you're like, I got 10 years wiring houses, I've got a wife and she needs me to pick up the kids from school early on Fridays, because we share custody, whatever. If you got skills that they're having trouble finding and you bring those to the table, you can negotiate. That's when you can negotiate. But entry-level gas station job? You gotta be kidding me. So, anyway. DC says, I'm just a painter with lots of other options. Yeah, that's the other thing. If it's a high demand job like that, where, it's hard to get somebody to do that work, then you can also make demands, but I mean, painting is a skilled job, that's not exactly easy work, especially if you're doing it outside. I mean, it's a lot easier with the sprayers these days, but doing detailed brush work and stuff like that, that takes a toll on your wrists. I mean, you can end up not being able to do any work with your hands by the time you're 50. So, Survival says, a highly skilled man. Okie Kevin Edwards, I had a boss that gave me a look of bewilderment and annoyance when I told him, no, it can't be done. Made me remember a story my uncle told about how he never said no, just give him the time to think of how to do it. Yeah, there was, if you see, and then DC says only 6 powder coaters that do what I do in the state of Florida. Yeah, then you can make demands. Definitely. Absolutely. If there are only 6 of you in the state, whew, you got options then. So, but it was, Mike Rowe, he was on uh, Fox, and he was talking about kids doing jobs and being too picky and pretentious and stuff like that when they were straight onto the workforce. And he's like, uh, the interviewer, I can't remember which guy it was, said, well, how would you do an interview? It's like, sir, I will be early every day that you have me. I will be early. I will stay late. I will do every job you ask me to do with a smile on my face. I will not complain. I will be a team player. If there's something that you need done, you just ask me. If you don't know how to, if I don't know how to do it, I will learn and I will figure out how to. I mean, you've got to look at that. It's a short thing, and he's just winning him over and winning him over and winning him over, and he's serious about it. You can tell that he's dead serious about how hard he's going to do. He's not just putting the shine on. And the announcer at the end goes, "You're hired," which was just the attitude of everybody watching that. That this guy was like, "No, if you need it done, I'll do it. No complaints. I may ask a question or two, but that's only to get it done. Just go watch it. Go look it up. Mike Rowe doing interviews. He's talking about trade schools and stuff like that. It's just magical. So you can see how Mike Rowe got to where he is now, which is it. You don't. He's a voiceover, so you don't always know what he's in, but for a blue collar guy, he made his way. So, but let's see. The story later went to him standing in a boardroom with college graduates that were above him, and his boss told these guys, this high school is now your boss. He figures it out. College quits. Yes. That's the way it is sometimes is people who go through college don't have. I started working when I was 11, so I had that grit of get it done. And so it didn't matter to me. You hand me a job, I'll do it. 4-hour turnaround, no problem. But I want to get back to the work. Otherwise we'll be swapping stories all night. So, we're talking about Lunch Bucket. He was not fun to be around, and he couldn't take a joke. That's fatal on a work crew. About 3 days of carrying on with his ill humor, general air of hard done by superiority, Lunch Bucket started to experience harassment extending well beyond his nickname. He would be peevishly working away on the line, surrounded by about 70 men spread out over a quarter mile. Suddenly, a pebble would appear out of nowhere, flying through the air, aimed at his hard hat. A direct hit would produce a thunking sound, deeply satisfying to all the quiet attending onlookers. Even this failed to improve his humor, so the pebbles got larger. Lunch Bucket would involve himself in something and forget to pay attention. Then, thunk! A well-aimed stone would nail him right on the noggin, producing a burst of irritated and ineffectual fury. Quiet amusement would ripple down the rail line. After a few days of this no wiser and carrying a few bruises, Lunch Bucket vanished. Men enforce a code of behavior on each other when working together. Do your work. Pull your weight. Stay awake and pay attention. Don't whine or be touchy. Stand up for your friends. Don't suck up and don't snitch. Don't be a slave to stupid rules. Don't, in the immortal words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, be a girly man. Don't be dependent at all, ever, period. The harassment that is part of acceptance on a work crew is a test. If you are tough, entertaining, competent, and reliable, if not, go away. Simple as that. We don't need to feel sorry for you. We don't want to put up with your narcissism, and we don't want to do your work. That's the problem with these guys. Is I'll leave it at that. There was a famous advertisement in the form of a comic strip issued a few decades ago by the bodybuilder Charles Atlas. It was titled "The Insults That Made a Man Out of Me," and it could be found in almost every comic book, most of which were read by boys. Mac, the protagonist, is sitting on a beach blanket with an attractive young woman. A bully runs by and kicks sand in both their faces. Mac objects. The much larger man grabs him by the arms and says, "Listen here, I'd smash your face, only you're too skinny, you might dry up and blow away." The bully departs. Mac says to the girl, "The big bully, I'll get even someday." She adopts a provocative pose and says, "Oh, don't let it bother you, little boy." Mac goes home, considers his pathetic physique, and buys the Atlas program. Soon he has a new body. The next time he goes to the beach, he punches the bully in the nose. The now admiring girl clings to his arm. "Oh, Mac," she says, "you're a real man after all." Because, yeah, that's how it was. That ad is famous for a reason. It summarizes human sexual psychology in 7 straightforward panels. The too weak man is embarrassed and self-conscious, as he should be. What good is he? He gets put down by other men, and worse, by desirable women. Instead of drowning in resentment and skulking off to his basement to play video games in his underwear covered with Cheeto dust, he presents himself with what Alfred Adler, Freud's most practical colleague, called a compensatory fantasy. The goal of such a fantasy is not so much wish fulfillment as illumination of a genuine path forward. Mac takes serious note of his scarecrow-like build and decides that he should develop a stronger body. More importantly, he puts his plan into action. He identifies with the part of himself that could transcend his current state and becomes the hero of his own adventure. He goes back to the beach and punches the bully in the nose. Mac wins. So does his eventual girlfriend. So does everybody else. It is to women's clear advantage that men do not happily put up with dependency among themselves. Part of the reason that so many working class women do not marry now, as we have alluded to, is because she does not want to look after a man struggling for employment as well as her children. And fair enough. A woman should look after her children, although that is not all she should do. And a man should look after a woman and children, although that is not all he should do. But a woman should not look after a man because she must look after children, and a man should not be a child. We used to call it Peter Pan syndrome. You get a boyfriend and you find out he's Peter Pan, dump him immediately, because you do not want to be raising an adult baby. And worse than that, an adult baby is dangerous because they will have child level temper tantrums in full-sized adult suits. And that's what gets women hit, That's what gets us into real trouble is if we accept a Peter Pan man. You never want to date a Peter Pan. Never, ever. So, DC Irish says, it's all about teaching our kids what we ourselves learned in life so that they will be stronger in their lives. Absolutely. Survival says, adult conniption fits. Yeah. And it's, especially in a man, if he doesn't know how to behave properly, doesn't know how to be a real man in a relationship, ends up acting like a kid. She grows resentful. She'll get pissed off. He'll realize, oh, I'm a man, but still acting like a child. And that, yeah, I've seen it way too many times. Toys R, where was it? There it was. Toys R Us kid, all grown up. Exactly. DC says, yeah, if my sons try some stupid sugar honey iced tea, they know they have me to deal with. Right, exactly. And that's why it requires men to raise boys. Women can't do it. We can do it to a certain age, but cultures throughout time pretty much figured out that by 7 years old, and psychologists say this is right around the age 6, 7, and 8 is right around the age that you go from a child to developing your own personality, developing your own likes, wants, wishes, dreams, that kind of thing. That's the age at which, boys need men to look up to model after, to learn from, all that kind of stuff. So, DC says, but my sons know better, so would never do that. Here. There you go. You call them bugmen? You got to explain that one to me, Survival. I don't know. Is it bugmen? Oh, they hide. Yeah, they'll hide from other men. But they'll still try, because they still got the desire. They'll go after women. If that's their persuasion. And I mean, I'm going to get back into the book because otherwise I'm going to go on a long tangent. But anyway, this means that he must not be dependent. This is one of the reasons that men have little patience for dependent men. And let us not forget, wicked women may produce dependent sons, may support and even marry dependent men, but awake and conscious women want an awake and conscious partner. It is for this reason that the Nelson Muntz of The Simpsons is so necessary to the small social group that surrounds Homer's anti-hero son, Bart. Without Nelson, king of the bullies, the school would soon be overrun by resentful, mouthy Milhouse, narcissistic intellectual Martin Princess, soft, chocolate-gorging German children, and the infantile Ralph Wiggum. Muntz is a corrective, a tough, self-sufficient kid who uses his own capacity for contempt to decide what line of immature and pathetic behavior simply cannot be crossed. Part of the genius of The Simpsons is its writers' refusal to simply write Nelson off as an irredeemable bully. That is smart. Abandoned by his worthless father, neglected, thankfully, by his thoughtless slut of a mother, Nelson does pretty well, everything considered. He's even of romantic interest to the thoroughly progressive Lisa, much to her dismay and confusion, for much of the same reasons that 50 Shades of Grey became a worldwide phenomenon. There's more reasons than that. But it makes a point. When softness and harmlessness become the only consciously acceptable virtues, then hardness and dominance will start to exert an unconscious fascination. Partly what this means for the future is that if men are pushed too hard to feminize, they will become more and more interested in harsh, fascist political ideology. Fight Club, perhaps the most fascist popular film made in recent years by Hollywood, with the possible exception of the Iron Man series, provides a perfect example of such inevitable attraction. The populist groundswell of support for Donald Trump in the U.S. is part of the same process, as is, in far more sinister form, the recent rise of far right political parties, even in such moderate and liberal places as Holland, Sweden, and Norway. Men have to toughen up. Toughen up. Men demand it, and women want it, even though they may not approve of the harsh and contemptuous attitude that is part and parcel of the socially demanding process that fosters it and then enforces that toughness. Some women don't like losing their baby boys, so they keep them forever, and they stay baby boys forever. That was my editorial insert into there. Some women don't like men and would rather have a submissive mate, even if he is useless. This also provides them with plenty to feel sorry for themselves about as well. The pleasures of such self-pity should not be underestimated. Yeah, some people just like to have something to whine about. And if that's your husband, then they whine about that. It's not healthy. The men toughen up by pushing themselves and by pushing each other. When I was a teenager, the boys were much more likely to get into car accidents than girls, as they still are. This was because they were out spinning donuts at night in icy parking lots. They were drag racing and driving their cars over the roadless hills extending from the nearby river up to the level land hundreds of feet higher. They were more likely to fight physically and to skip class and to tell the teachers off and to quit school because they were tired of raising their hands for permission to go to the bathroom when they were big and strong enough to work on oil rigs. They were more likely to race their motorbikes on frozen lakes in the winter. Like the skateboarders and crane climbers and free runners, they were doing dangerous things, trying to make themselves useful. When this process goes too far, boys and men drift into the antisocial behavior, which is far more prevalent in males than in females. This does not mean that every manifestation of daring and courage is criminal. But man, aren't they trying to make it that way? So, DC says, my youngest son yelled at my wife once. He got mad about something stupid. My older son popped him in the mouth, and that was the end of that. And that's, Mary Lou tells these stories about how, that's the way it used to be in families, is that if you were the oldest, you were the one who explained the rules going down. You took care of the younger ones, and when they stepped out of line, it wasn't mom or dad, it was your eldest sibling that you needed to worry about. So, Survival is explaining what I asked earlier. It's an entire meaning bugmen. They are the gross underbelly of the simp incel neckbeard types that live in the basement of mom's houses. Oh, got it. Oh my gosh. That makes a lot of sense. And then Survival says, I was 15, I'll never forget it. He Spock pressure pointed my neck down to the ground and asked me how I'd like it if he called my girlfriend. I don't know an acronym for that one. You'll have to help me out. But yeah, Shaman says, lessons learned. Absolutely. So DC says, my friends all ask me how my sons are so good. It's easy. They respect me. Exactly. And that's one thing that a single mom does not pull off well, is getting respect. Usually because we're too emotional, we're too neurotic, And eventually the boys just get stronger than us, and they're not going to take it anymore. Um, so yeah, that can get a lot of single moms into big trouble unless they make dependent men. Um, and that's not good. We're destroying our civilization, folks. But I'm preaching to the choir on that one. Uh, when the boys were spinning donuts, they were also testing the limits of their cars, their abilities as drivers, and their capacity for control in an out of control situation. When they told off the teachers, they were pushing against authority to see if there was any real authority there, the kind that could be relied on, in principle, in a crisis. That's true. Um, yeah, that's yeah. What is it? Strong men make good times. Good times make weak men. Weak men make bad times. Bad times call for strong men, or whatever that saying is. We all know it. And yeah, we test it. Is there any authority there? And if there is it reason? Is it totalitarian authority? Is it abusive authority, or is it principled authority? Um, and I mean, I was very, very lucky in that we had a very good principal who he didn't believe in punishing all the kids for what a few bad apples did. He took care of the bad apples, and then the rest of us were, responsible, and we took care of our responsibilities and things like that. If you stepped out of line, he was right there. But most of the time, and we had an open campus for lunch. Not just the seniors, all the way down to the freshmen. If you wanted to leave the campus to go run around on your lunch period, you were free to do so. And that taught us a lot of independence, a lot of responsibility, that kind of thing. We didn't have helicopter parents back then. So when they quit school, they went to work as rig roughnecks when it was 40 bloody degrees below zero. It wasn't weakness that propelled so many out of the classroom where a better future arguably awaited. It was strength. If they're healthy, women don't want boys. They want men. They want someone to contend with, someone to grapple with. Yes. They're tough and they want someone tougher. Amen. I want a guy who can stand up to me. And I'm pretty tough. I don't want a weaker man than me. I want someone as tough, if not tougher, as long as that, strength isn't then used to dominate. Don't need that in my life. It's got to be respect. So if they're smart, they want someone smarter. Yes and no. They desire someone who brings to the table something that they can't already provide. Yes. This often makes it hard for tough, smart, attractive women to find mates. Oh my gosh. 18 years alone. Yeah, I wonder why. Anyway, there aren't just that manly. There just aren't that many men around who can outclass them enough to be considered desirable, who are higher, as one research publication put it, in income, education, self-confidence, intelligence, dominance, and social position. 6 out of 7 ain't bad. I mean, there's 5 out of 7 for that matter. The spirit that interferes when boys are trying to become men is therefore no more friend to woman than it is to man. It will object just as vociferously and self-righteously, you can't do it, it's too dangerous. When little girls try and stand on their own 2 feet, it negates consciousness. It's anti-human, desirous of failure, jealous, resentful, and destructive. No one truly on the side of humanity would ally himself or herself with such a thing. No one aiming at moving up would allow him or herself to become possessed by such a thing. And if you think you tough men are dangerous, wait till you see what weak men are capable of. Leave children alone while they're skateboarding. All right. And that is almost right on the money. We're just a little bit 10 minutes over from our break, and we will start chapter 12. Now, I'm going to tell you guys right now, gird your loin for chapter 12. This one is going to be rough. And, some of you have gone through this. Some of you have not. Justice, this is one area that he knows intimately. So let's find, we are looking for, give you a little preview. See, this might be a little difficult to find. Here we go. Hush. Pause. I want rule 12. And we will take our bathroom break, smoke break, all that other stuff. So.
My daughter was very ill. She had juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and when she was between the ages of 14 and 16, it first destroyed her hip, which had to be replaced, and then it destroyed the ankle on her other leg, which had to be replaced. She walked around for 2 years on broken legs, and she was taking massive doses of opiates and could hardly stay awake, and she had this advanced autoimmune disease, which produced all sorts of other symptoms that were just as bad as the joint degeneration, but which are harder to describe. And so it's just bloody brutal. And as a test of your faith, there's almost nothing that's more direct than a serious illness inflicted upon an innocent child. But what to do in a situation like that? Because everyone is going to have a situation like that in some sense. You'll be faced with illness and the people that you love. And one of the things you do when you're overwhelmed by crisis is you shorten your time frame. You can't think about next month. Maybe you can't even bloody well think about next week, or maybe not even tomorrow, because now is just so overwhelming that that's all there is. And that's what you do. You cut your time frame back until you can cope with it. And if it's not the next week that you see how to get through, then it's the next day. And if it's not the next day, then it's the next hour. And if it's not the next hour, then it's the next minute. And people are very, very, very tough. And it turns out that if you face things, you can put up with a lot more than you think you can put up with, and you can do it without becoming corrupted. And she did recover because she figured out what was wrong with her and then took the necessary steps to fix it. She's nothing short of a bloody miracle. You have to be alert when you're suffering. You have to be alert to the beauty in life, the unexpected beauty in life. There's this cat that lives across the street from us called Ginger. Cats really aren't domesticated. Technically speaking, they're still wild animals, but they kind of like people. God only knows why, but they do, And so Ginger will come wandering over and let you pet her. You have to look for that little bit of sparkling crystal in the darkness when things are bad. You have to look and see where things are still beautiful. You narrow your time frame. You be grateful for what you have. That can get you through some very dark times, and maybe even successfully if you're lucky. But even if unsuccessfully, then maybe it's only tragic and not absolute hell. You can do that, in the worst situation. You can make it only tragic and not hell. There's nothing worse at a deathbed than to see the people that are fighting. The death has gotten up, but you can take that, as terrible as it is, and make it into something that's absolutely unbearable. And maybe I think, and this is sort of what I close the book with, if we didn't all attempt to make terrible things even worse than they are, then maybe we could tolerate terrible things that we have to put up with in order to exist. And maybe we could make the world into a better place, you know? And it's what we should be doing and what we could be doing because we don't have anything better to do. And that's what the book is about. And that's the end of 12 Rules for Life. Thank you.
All right, we're back, and I'm just gonna. Hey, Boogie's here. Um. Kevin says, "I hope I count myself among you guys." Absolutely. I got a girl now. I just need to tend it for the next 40 years. Good going. Good going, sir. Congratulations. So, I'm going to play that song one more time tonight, just because I'm going to have to walk Mary Lou out of here in a little bit. So, but yeah, chapter 12 is pet a cat when you encounter one. And it's pet a cat when you encounter one in the street. Dogs are okay too. That's the heading. So, yeah, there's a book by Pete Gregg called God on Mute that is about, how do we, as people of faith, deal with when terrible things happen. It's like, what do you do when bad things happen to good people? And my mother had a really, really tough time with it. And I did not, just because of the tragedy that I had been through in my own life. I knew that bad things happen to good people. I knew that they could be so terrible that it would just rip your soul to shreds, and you have to learn how to weave it back together again. Peter Pan thought he had it hard and trying to stick his shadow back on. Try to take the broken pieces of your soul and glue them back together again. That's a tough job. And like one of the stories in that book was, a man goes out to get ice cream for his family. And he's just going to run down to the store and back, the corner store. They're all watching movies and things like that. So he goes and he picks up the ice cream. It was raining. He didn't think anything of it. And when he came back home, he found out, that his California home had, including his wife and his 3 girls, had been completely buried in a mudslide. The entire house was destroyed. Everything was under feet and feet and feet of mud. It took them, forever to even just be able to get the bodies out. And tough things that have happened to people. And I've been through that darkness, and so I understand dark times like that. And you can hear, on that song that, Jordan Peterson is starting to cry in memory of it, just of the pain that his daughter went through, and just how hard of a time that the whole family had as a result of Michaela's rheumatoid arthritis. And so, you know, um, but I get it. I get it 100% because I've been through it, and it's just one of those things. Is yeah, you hope to God A that it doesn't break you, and B doesn't leave you mean and bitter and resentful. I've still got some jealousy issues that I need to work on. Um, that there's I still haven't completely mourned the loss of my life. I still haven't replaced enough of it with my new life to go, hey, my life didn't end up like that, but it's okay. I used to be like that before I got sick, but then the sickness took everything from me, everything. And, it was really difficult for me to, um, it's been difficult to pull myself out of that, to pull myself out of, um, just being so damn angry that I went through that and nobody was there for me. Like, one of the things that I still get jealous over to this day is seeing people in chronic illness. Now, this sounds funny. I'm jealous of other chronic illness people, but I'll tell you why. If I see them like leaving a hospital room and they've got flowers and stuffed animals and balloons and things like that, oh, that can make me so jealous because I had to go through all of that alone. My parents weren't there. My siblings weren't there. A couple of my cousins were kind of there for me, but not really. And it's just so hard. My sister got flowers when she went to the hospital, and she wasn't nearly as sick as I was. I was dying, and nobody cared. So I've still got some of that, darkness in my soul that I need to work through. So yeah, it was rough. It was rough. So anyway, let me play a little bit of the Jordan Peterson Genesis because I'm going to walk Mary Lou out now. Survival says, you have a Pam fam in this realm. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And you are some of the folks that are helping me heal. And I really love that, getting people who do support me and who are there for me. I mean, you guys pulled through for me. Oh, when I had screwed up my finances with, my medications being so much more expensive than I was used to and everything else. I mean, you guys came through. And, I will forever be grateful for that. And you came through with, money helping me out. You came through emotionally and being there for me. You brought out the laughs and helped me get through it. That I will always just love you guys forever for that, because that was, that was terrifying, because I didn't know what I was going to do. And it just brought back all those memories of not knowing what to do, not having the resources, and having dire things happen to me as a result, losing apartments and everything that was in it because I couldn't afford a mover. So I just had to leave the stuff with my landlord. So, yeah. And, oh, God. Yeah. So, thank you. Thank you so much for that. Shaman says, you're great people, Pam, and crazy good intelligent. Oh, bless your heart. We love you. I love you too. Mwah. Ooh. So we need to have some sort of party some year now that the restrictions are being lifted. You can all come out to Colorado and stay in my house and go skiing or something like that, or we'll get someplace up in the mountains where we can all come together some weekend, if we get a nice long 4th of July weekend or something like that. It's like 5 days, something cool that we can all do and get together. Because I'd love to meet you guys in person and give you guys, real in-person hugs. But yeah, I appreciate each and every one of you. And I'm going to remove my makeup now. So let me put on, let's see if we can find, no, it's not that one. Is it this one? There it is. Let's see if we can.
He's got cold.
Yeah, some of it was memories though that I couldn't replace.
You're disoriented. You just spin around in
Pictures,
circles and then you suffer. And so do people around you. It's not a good solution. Orient yourself towards
I'll tell you when I get back, but I gotta walk my Lou out, so I'll be right back.
What will work for you? What goal would justify the suffering of your life? Start trying to piece that together. You're going to get better at it. Start trying to piece that together. You're going to get better at it. But it's a personal process. So you need a personal place to stand, because otherwise you're going to be handed a place to stand on a plate. And it may be one that makes you a puppet of someone else's goals. So I would say, what are the processes? Well, I think what I've recommended to people is clean up your room. 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 Then you'll know what to do next. See if you can stop saying things you know to be lies. That's not the same as telling the truth. You don't get to do that to begin with because you're not good enough at it to even attempt it in some sense. But everyone can stop saying things they know to be falsehoods. Stop saying things that violate your conscience. There's another idea. Stop saying and doing things that make you feel weak. All you have to do is pay attention to that. Some things you do will make you feel disintegrated. It's a physiological sensation. Some things improve your integrity and some things disintegrate you. The things that disintegrate you often do to impress other people. You're escaping what you know to be your moral obligation. And your moral obligation stems naturally from your aims. And if you don't have an aim, well then, you're aimless. Clean up your room. 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 Then you'll know what to do next. I had a girl come up to me last night. She said, I started cleaning up my room and it completely changed my life. She said, your room is an externalization of your mind. That's right. That's exactly true. To the degree that you're in your room, the room is you. So straighten up what you can straighten up and quit saying things that make you feel weak. And then you'll know what to do next. Clean up your room. 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 Then you'll know what to do next. It's like, hey, man, you have a room. Most people throughout human history have not had a room. You have a room. Well, my room's a hellhole. It's like, well, then you're a denizen of hell inhabiting it. You should do something about that. Well, what? Well, put it in minimal order. Keep your clothes together because you have to wear those. People are looking at your clothes. What clothes should you be wearing? resurrected loser. How about that? What about your family? Is it comfortable? Do you make it anywhere so it looks like how civilized? Can you sleep there? It's like, is there junk everywhere so you just hate your life when you walk into your room? Clean the damn thing up. See if you can do it. Order your drawers. Learn to fold your clothes. Put it in minimal order. And then, man, we could get spectacular. You said, put a plant in there. It's like, maybe I could make it beautiful.
All right, people. Thank you. So yeah, I'm in Longmont. My room is a hell. Then you're a denizen of hell. Right, exactly. Yeah, I'm in Longmont, which is I don't know how far that is from Grand Junction. I think that's on the other side. Is that what you said is Grand Junction? So yeah, I think Grand Junction is on the other side of the state. I'm on the eastern side of the mountains, what we call the eastern slope of the Front Range. So DC says I will be going to Frutia. I don't know if that's a hard or soft T, and Grand Junction on the Utah border. Oh, that's a pretty area. I know that area. Yeah, on the other side. Yeah, so other side of the Continental Divide. But yeah, thank you for giving me the time to walk Mary Lou out. She seems so engaged in the stories that I was telling about, putting the pieces of yourself back together, that I didn't want to, shoo her away when it was our normal break. I wanted to give her a chance to sit and listen. But yeah, John has a strict bedtime to get his mom home by 9 so she doesn't go to bed too late. You were in Utah a year ago? Yeah. Parts of it are beautiful. I mean, all of Utah is beautiful. But it depends on what you like. I like the beauty of deserts, but I also like the beauty of the hills, and down in the lower Utah is just so gorgeous. Excuse me, Red Bull coming back up. So yeah, thank you for doing that. She remembered which side her house was on tonight. I was so proud of her. Because she usually wants to go the other way, but she stopped, she looked, she thought about it, and she said that way. And I was like, yep, you got it. So I might just bake cookies for her or something. We're able to tease one another when it comes to her losing her memory. She's aware of it, as much as her son doesn't like to think that she's aware of it. I mean, granted, when she's caught up in an emotional moment and things like that, she doesn't know who she doesn't know which she that she is. She doesn't know how old she is. Like sometimes she still talks about her parents coming to pick her up, and it's like, honey, I think your parents are 20 years in the ground, but I never say that, because sometimes she's in her 16-year-old mind. Sometimes she's in her, 50-year-old mind, and then sometimes she remembers that she's 87. So, thank you, DC. Yeah, no, she's wonderful. And for somebody who's homebound, even when there aren't things like COVID running about, she's good company. So, yeah, and she's neither one of us judges one another, which makes us very easy to be around one another, and it's just it's all a good thing. So, dementia be damned. I don't really mind so much, and I don't mind repeating things or anything like that. I'm not. She's got dementia. I understand. I'm going to be telling the same stories over and over and over again, but I get to tell the same stories over and over and over again. So it's all good. Survival says, I think her son should be stepping up for her. Well, he's losing his mother, and he remembers how competent she used to be because she was a nurse for 50 years, and really, really smart. I mean, she may not remember what turn it is when we're playing cards, but she will kick my butt every single time, you know. And it's not like I just let her. She's I wish I could have known her in her prime, because she must have been amazing. But I can understand that me knowing her only as a dementia patient makes it a lot easier for me than for him who's watching his mother die before his eyes before she's dead. I mean, that's got to be just, and that's her only son. So it's not like he has siblings or other things to lean on. At least she's living with him and they take care of her, like they've got Apple Watch so she doesn't get lost. Or if she gets lost in the neighborhood, she can call him and have her, he can use GPS tracking and get her home. I mean, that's better than her being in a nursing home by far. She would be doped up on so many different things just to keep her compliant so that, the nursing home staff doesn't have to work too hard. So, I give them props for that. She's at home, where she belongs. And I take over and give them a little, time to breathe on their own. So yeah. DC says, I take care of my mom also. She lives 2 streets away. It's not easy, sometimes aggravating. Yep, she turns 75 this year. Wow. Yeah, Mary Lou is 87. Like, she tells me of, she remembers when Pearl Harbor was hit and she lost a cousin, like her favorite cousin, was killed in that attack. So, they brought her out of school and everything like that. And it's a harrowing story of that. So, yeah, bless your heart, DC Irish. I'm proud of you. And DC says, as long as my mom has her 2 beers a day, she's happy. So I drink one her and leave her one. Gotcha. So Kevin says, the first time I ever saw how nursing home folks are treated with contempt was the first episode of Highway to Heaven. Yeah. And I mean, it's so easy for them to catch MRSA in there and other things like that. It's just, so I'm hella proud of him for having her at home, and I'll do whatever I can to support. And then Barb, her husband as well. But, Barb is much more hands-on with him, and he only speaks, he understands English, but he doesn't speak that much English, so they communicate in Spanish. Because otherwise I'd probably be helping more over there too. But Barb's a strong woman, so, she's going to take care of her husband, and does. But yeah, I've got Alzheimer's patients on either side of me. So here we are. Rule number 12. Pet a cat when you encounter one on the street. Dogs are okay too. I'm going to start this chapter by stating directly that I own a dog, an American Eskimo, one of the many variants of the basic Spitz type. They were known as German Spitzes until the First World War made it verboten to admit anything good could come from Germany. American Eskimos are among the most beautiful of dogs, with a pointed classic wolf face, upright ears, a long thick coat, and a curly tail. They are also very intelligent. One dog, whose name is Sicko, which means ice in Inuit language, according to my daughter who named him, learns tricks very rapidly and can do so even now that he's old. I taught him a new stunt recently when he turned 13. He already knew how to shake a paw and balance a treat on his nose. I taught him to do both at the same time. However, it's not at all clear that he enjoys it. We brought Sicko for my daughter Michaela when she was about 10 years old. He is an unbearably cute pup, or was an unbearably cute pup. Small nose and ears, rounded face, big eyes, and awkward movements. The features automatically elicit a caretaking behavior from humans, male and female alike. This was certainly the case with Michaela, who was also occupied with the care of bearded dragons, geckos, ball pythons, chameleons, iguanas, and a 20-pound, 32-inch long Flemish giant rabbit named George. I shall name him George. Who nibbled on everything in the house and frequently escaped, to the great consternation of those who then spied his improbably large form in their tiny mid-city garden. She had all these animals because she was allergic to the more typical pets, excepting Sicko, who had the additional advantage of being hypoallergenic. Sicko garnered 50 nicknames, we counted, which varied broadly in their emotional tone and reflected both the affection in which he was held and our occasional frustration with his beastly habits. Scumdog was probably my favorite, but I also held Rathound, Furball, and Suckdog in rather high esteem. The kids used Sneak and Squeak, sometimes with an appended O, so Sneako and Squeako, most frequently, but he accompanied it with Snooky, Ugdog, Snorbalophagus, horrible though it is to admit. Snorbs is Michaela's current moniker of choice. She uses it to greet him after a prolonged absence. For full effect, it must be uttered in a high-pitched and surprised voice. Snorbs! Sicko also happens to have his own Instagram hashtag, Judgmental Sicko. I am describing my dog instead of writing directly about cats because I don't wish to run afoul of a phenomenon known as minimal group identification, discovered by the social psychologist Henry Tajfel. Tajfel brought his research subject into his lab and sat them down in front of the screen onto which he flashed a number of dogs. The subjects were asked to estimate their quantity. Then he categorized his subjects as overestimators and underestimators, as well as accurate versus inaccurate, and put them into groups corresponding to their performance. Then he asked them to divide money among the members of these groups. Tajfel found that his subjects displayed a marked preference for their own group members, rejecting an egalitarian distribution strategy and disproportionately rewarding those with whom they now identified. Other researchers have assigned people to different groups using even more arbitrary strategies such as flipping a coin. It didn't matter. When the subjects were informed of the way their groups were composed, people still favored the co-members of their personal group. Tajfel studies demonstrated two things. First, that people are social. Second, that people are antisocial. People are social because they like the members of their own group. People are antisocial because they don't like the members of other groups. Exactly why this is so has been the subject of continual debate. I think it might be a solution to a complex problem of optimization. Such problems arise, for example, when two or more factors are important, but none can be maximized without diminishing the others. A problem of this sort emerges, for example, because of the antipathy between cooperation and competition, both of which are socially and psychologically desirable. Cooperation is for safety, security, and companionship. Competition is for personal growth and status. However, if a group is too small, it has no power or prestige and cannot fend off other groups. In consequence, being one of its members is not useful. If the group is too large, however, the probability of climbing near to the top declines, so it becomes too hard to get ahead. Perhaps people identify with groups at the flip of a coin because they deeply want to organize themselves, protect themselves, and still have some reasonable probability of climbing the dominance hierarchy. Then they favor their own group because favoring it helps it thrive. And climbing something that is failing is not a useful strategy. In any case, it is because of Tajwell's minimal condition discoveries that I began this cat-related chapter with a description of my dog. Otherwise, the mere mention of a cat in the title would be enough to turn many dog people against me, just because I didn't include canines in the group of entities that should be petted. This is very true. There are dog people, there are cat people, and then there are, people that swing either way. So, since I also like dogs, there is no reason for me to suffer such a fate. So, if you like to pet dogs, when you meet them on the street, don't feel obligated to hate me. Rest assured instead that this is also an activity of which I approve. I would also like to apologize to all the cat people who now feel slighted because they were hoping for a cat story but had to read all this dog-related material. Perhaps they might be satisfied by some assurance that cats do illustrate the point I want to make better, and that I will eventually discuss them. First, however, to other things. Suffering and the limitations of being. The idea that life is suffering is a tenet in one form or another of every major religious doctrine, as we have already discussed. Buddhists state it directly. Christians illustrate that with the cross. Jews commemorate the suffering endured over centuries. Such reasoning universally characterized the great creeds because human beings are intrinsically fragile. We can be damaged, even broken, emotionally, physically, and we are all subject to the depredations of aging and loss. This is a dismal set of facts. And it is reasonable to wonder how we can expect to thrive and be happy, or even want to exist sometimes under such conditions. I was speaking recently with a client whose husband had been engaging in a successful battle with cancer for an agonizing period of 5 years. They had both held up remarkably and courageously over this period. However, he fell prey to the tendency of that dread condition to metastasize and, in consequence, had been given very little time to live. It is perhaps hardest to hear terrible news like this when you are still in the fragile post-recovery state that occurs after dealing successfully with previous bad news. Tragedy at such a time seems particularly unfair. It is the sort of thing that can make you distrust even hope itself. Hope can be a liability. It is frequently sufficient to cause genuine trauma. My client and I discussed a number of issues, some philosophical and abstract, some more concrete. I shared with her some of the thoughts I had developed about the whys and wherefores of human vulnerability. When my son, Julian, was about 3, he was particularly cute. He's 20 years older than that now, but still quite cute. A compliment I'm sure he'll particularly enjoy reading. Because of him, I thought a lot about the fragility of small children. A 3-year-old is easily damaged. Dogs can bite him. Cars can hit him. Mean kids can push him over. He can get sick, and sometimes he did. Julian was prone to high fevers and the delirium they sometimes produce. Sometimes I had to take him into the shower with me and cool him off when he was hallucinating or even fighting with me in his feverish state. There are a few things that make it harder to accept the fundamental limitations of human existence than a sick child. Michaela, a year and a few months older than Julian, also had her problems. When she was 2, I would lift her up on my shoulders and carry her around. Kids enjoy that. Afterwards, however, when I put her feet back on the ground, she would sit down and cry. So I stopped doing it. That seemed like the end of the problem, with a seemingly minor exception. My wife, Tammy, told me that something was wrong with Michaela's gait. I couldn't see it. Tammy thought it might be related to her reaction of being carried on my shoulders. Michaela was a sunny child and very easy to get along with. One day when she was about 14 months old, I took her along with Tammy and her grandparents to Cape Cod when we lived in Boston. When we got there, Tammy and her mom and dad walked on ahead and left me with Michaela in the car. We were in the front seat. She was lying there in the sun, babbling away. I leaned over to hear what she was saying. Happy, 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 happy. That's what she was like. When she turned 6, however, she started to get mopey. It was hard to get her out of her bed in the morning. She put on her clothes very slowly. When we walked somewhere, she lagged behind. She complained that her feet hurt and that her shoes didn't fit. We bought her 10 different pairs, but it didn't help. She went to school and held her head up and behaved properly, but when she came home and saw her mom, she would break into tears. We had recently moved from Boston to Toronto and attributed these changes to stress of the move, but it didn't get better. Michaela would walk up and down the stairs one step at a time. She began to move like someone much older. She complained if you held her hand. One time, much later, she asked me, "Dad, when you played this little piggy with me when I was little, was it supposed to hurt?" Things you learn too late. A physician at our local medical clinic told us sometimes children have growing pains. They're normal, but you could think about taking her to see a physiotherapist. So we did. The physiotherapist tried to rotate Michaela's heel. It didn't move. That was not good. The physio told us, "Your daughter has juvenile rheumatoid arthritis." This was not what we wanted to hear. We did not like that physiotherapist. We went back to the medical clinic. Another physician there told us to take Michaela to the hospital for sick children. The doctor said, "Take her to the emergency room. That way you will be able to see a rheumatologist quickly." Michaela had arthritis, all right. The physio, the bearer of unwelcome news, was correct. 37 affected joints. Severe polyarticular juvenile idiopathic arthritis. Cause? Unknown. Prognosis? Multiple early joint replacements. What sort of God would make a world where such things could happen at all? Much less to an innocent and happy little girl. It's a question of absolutely fundamental import to the believer and non-believer alike. It's an issue addressed as so many difficult matters in the Brothers Karamazov. Thank you. I'm getting migraine brain, obviously. The great novel by Dostoevsky, and we began to discuss in Rule 7. Dostoevsky expresses his doubts about the propriety of being through the character of Ivan, who, if you remember, is the articulate, handsome, sophisticated brother and greatest adversary of the monastic Novite Aloysia. It is not God I don't accept. Understand this, says Ivan. I do not accept that the world he created, that this world of God's, and I cannot agree with it. Ivan tells Aloysia a story about a small girl whose parents punished her by locking her in a freezing outhouse overnight, a story Dostoevsky culled from a newspaper of the time. Can you just see those two snoozing away while their daughter is crying all night, says Ivan, and imagine this little child, unable to understand what is happening to her, beating her frozen little chest and crying meek little tears, begging gentle Jesus to get her out of that horrible place. Aloysia, if you were somehow promised that the world could finally have complete and total peace, but only on the condition that you tortured one little child to death, say that little girl who was freezing in the outhouse, would you do it? Aloysia demurs. No, I would not, he says softly. He would not do what God seems to freely allow. I had realized something relevant to this years before about 3-year-old Julian. Remember him? I thought, I love my son. He's 3 and he's cute and he's comical, but I am also afraid for him because he could be hurt. If I had the power to change that, what might I do? I thought. He could be 20 feet tall instead of 40 inches. Nobody would push him over then. He could be made of titanium instead of flesh and bone. Then, if some brat bounced a toy truck off of his noggin, he wouldn't care. He could have computer-enhanced brain, and even if he was damaged, somehow his parts could be immediately replaced. Problem solved. But no, not problem solved. And not just because such things are currently impossible. Artificially fortifying Julian would have been the same as destroying him. Instead of his little 3-year-old self, he would be a cold, steel-hard robot. That wouldn't be Julian. It would be a monster. I came to realize through such thoughts that what can be truly loved about a person is inseparable from their limitations. Julian wouldn't have been little and cute and lovable if he wasn't also prone to illness and loss and pain and anxiety. Since I loved him a lot, I decided that he was all right the way he was, despite his fragility. It's been harder with my daughter. As her disease progressed, I began to piggyback her around, not on my shoulders, when we went for walks. She started taking oral naproxen and methotrexate, the latter a powerful chemotherapy agent. She had a number of cortisol injections, wrists, shoulders, ankles, elbows, knees, hips, fingers, toes, and tendons, all under general anesthesia. This helped temporarily, but her decline continued. One day, Tammy took Michaela to the zoo. She pushed her around in a wheelchair. That was not a good day. Her rheumatologist suggested prednisone, a corticosteroid, long used to fight inflammation. But prednisone has many side effects, not the least of which is severe facial swelling. It wasn't clear that this was better than the arthritis, not for a little girl. Fortunately, if that is the right word, the rheumatologist told us of a new drug. It had been used previously, but only on adults. So Michaela became the first Canadian child to receive etanercept, a biologic specifically designed for autoimmune diseases. Tammy accidentally administered 10 times the recommended dose the first few injections. Poof! Michaela was fixed, and weeks after the trip to the zoo, she was zipping around playing Little League soccer. Tammy spent all summer just watching her run. And we got to stop it on a cliffhanger there. 10 times. That's quite a mistake to make. They're lucky that it wasn't something that could kill her. DC Irish says, now I understand why you said Justice's name a bit ago. Much respect. Yeah, much respect to Justice. This is what Michaela went through. And I don't know if you heard the song. that talked about all the different joint replacements that she'll have to go through. But yeah, this is the hardest chapter of all, which was probably why he put it at the end of the book. He put it at the beginning of the book. You're going to drive people off. This book is about what now? Oh my gosh, can't handle it. So, but anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we are at time, and good time. So yeah, we will continue this with next week, and hopefully, I will be able to do this Saturday night Bible study with you all. I'm so sorry, I keep missing those. But weather's been wonky and whatnot. My nose is getting stuffed up for no reason whatsoever because I don't have allergies in this state. So that usually means the migraine's coming on. So I will. The last thing I took was at 6, so I'll be able to take some more in a half an hour. Woohoo! I don't have to wait long. So Shaman says, great show again tonight, Pam. Thank you so much. You're very, very welcome. Much love. Mega love shout out to the Pam fam. Thank you for sticking with. Can you believe we went through the whole? We're going through the whole book. We're almost there. We're almost there. It's yeah. I'll see you all on Saturday where we will pick up the Jordan Peterson biblical series again, and yeah, we will finish up the book next week. And DC says, I'm glad I stayed and listened. Yeah, I am too. So hit me up, DC, and we'll talk about your ability to sell ice in hell. And yeah, I will see you guys day after tomorrow, and hopefully, and if not, next week. So since I've been so lax about my ability, well, I shouldn't say that. Since life has had other things in my plans than what I had in my plans, I'll just leave it at that. So, love you all. Mega love shout out. That's it. Mega love shout out. And you all have a good rest of your night. Bye.